Hello, my name is Rishab. I am from New York, the United States of America. I am currently a Kokusai Koryuin, a coordinator of international relations in Fukuoka-Kitakyushu. I studied at KCP from January of 2020 to September of 2021. I had also studied twice before as a summer short student. I am everything because of KCP. So I am a Kokusai Koryuin, coordinator of international relations. My everyday basically involves me doing translations and interpretations as well as native checks where I check all the documents and graphs that are written in English and see if there's mistakes or not. I also do bunka koza, which are basically, I go to community centers and I teach the local communities about America, American society, American culture. I also do social media for my workplace, the City Hall, and I mostly advertise places of interests for tourists from Western countries or English-speaking countries. Well, I really wanted to experience working in a different country rather than working in America. I feel like anyone can just work in America, but saying that you've worked in Japan, that too in a city hall, is a really big advantage compared to everyone else. And that too, I've always had a passion for Japan and Japanese, so I feel like choosing to work in Japan was the best decision to do after graduating from college. I love Japanese traditional culture. I love Shintoism and Buddhism a lot. I've traveled all over Japan to the most famous temples and the shrines, collecting red stamps basically and praying to each and every single one, like, please protect me, please keep me safe here, and please keep my loved ones safe as well. So I love to travel around Japan and visit old, historical, and culturally important places. I was actually introduced to it by one of my friends from KCP who had graduated a few years ago. He is actually currently working as an ALT, an English teacher in Chiba with JET. And I was talking to him about finding a job in Japan, and he had suggested that because I speak Japanese, I should try to apply for the Kokusai Koryuin, the CIR position, and that I should try that, and then hopefully I can find employment here in Japan and work for the local governments. I really like it, yeah. It's a really nice place to work. Everyone's very nice to me. I feel very grateful that I have a place that I get to say, my job is fun. So one of the very first requirements for it was you needed to have a JLPT N2, at least N2, in order to be qualified for this job. After that, they ask you to write an essay in English, at least, in English, telling about your history with Japan, why you want this position, etc. And then after that, there was an interview, and in that interview, they basically see if you can speak Japanese or not. They give you a portion to read in Japanese, and you have to read that all to the interviewers. Then there's a portion where you speak to the interviewers in Japanese. They talked about several things, for example, politics or culture, or in my case, my life here in Japan. And then once that was all done, then they gave me they would email me saying if I was accepted or not, and thankfully I was. Aside from that, they would appreciate if you have a understanding of Japanese culture and Japanese history, if you've been to Japan before. Those are some of the beneficial points. If you have them, it would really help you, I believe. Studying at KCP, I feel like I really would not be able to have been in the position where I am today without KCP. KCP really helped me tremendously. KCP not only helped me with my interviews or with practices for helping me prepare for the JLPT, but KCP helped me so much more. They've taught me about what to do in Japanese society, what to do in the Japanese workplace, what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. And I feel like if I had not attended KCP before starting my job, I feel like I would just be going in very blind. I have a lot of favorite teachers. Anrak sensei, Owak sensei, Kawashima sensei, Fujimoto sensei, Morinaga sensei, everyone basically. I really got to exchange with people from different countries. KCP has people from all over the world. And one of the best parts was I got to learn about other people while learning about Japanese. We also talked about a lot of current events here in KCP, so that was very practical for when I have to actually speak to actual Japanese people about what's going on in the world. So that also became very handy. Teachers are always very fun to talk to. They're strict, but they also have a very nice and funny side to them, which I'm glad I got to see. I experienced both of them. There needs to be a balance, so I'm glad I experienced both of those sides. I enjoyed the tea ceremony club here at KCP as well as the Koto club. Those were two clubs that I was really able to experience like actual Japanese culture. That too was taught by two of my favorite teachers, Anrak sensei and Ohak sensei. They're both very funny, so they made the club a lot more enjoyable as well. There's Sonkeigo and Keigo, which is basically polite Japanese. And in America, we don't really have this. We have like professional business words, but in Japan, you basically use these words and these specific grammatical structures for when you're speaking to people who are higher above you to show respect. And that is one of the major culture shocks that I've had. Aside from that, because it's a very far away place compared to Tokyo, the language, the dialect is a little bit different, but it's comprehensible. I'm able to understand every day. That's correct. The CIR is actually part of the JET program. So there's an online application. It depends on your country, but for the United States, you were able to apply online. The embassies of America, the Japanese embassies that are located in America, are in charge of the JET program actually. So I would suggest going onto the embassy's website that's closest to you, and basically you apply through them. In my case, since I'm from New York, I applied with the New York Embassy, the New York General Consulate of Japan. And I had applied for that through them, and everything was done through the embassy basically. They have their own little section for that on their webpage. I would advise that you know your motive for going to Japan. I know a lot of people, they like Japanese pop culture, so they say like on their applications, I love Japanese pop culture, I really need to go to Japan. That's not really the best reason that they're looking for. One of the reasons that I had said that I wanted to apply was I wanted to help people. I wanted to basically educate people in Japan about America and American culture, while also using my Japanese skills to better make a bridge between America and Japan. So that was one of the points that I had used, and that was something that they really like to hear. So I would suggest staying away from pop culture maybe and think about society as a whole. There's a very famous phrase that I learned here at KCP called Ichigo Ichie, which basically translates to live in the now, which is don't worry about what's going to happen in the future or what's happened in the past, just live in what's right now because you're not going to get a second chance at it. So I try to basically use that philosophy while I'm stressed out, and I try to think of where I am right now and appreciate where I am right now. Not a lot of people get to say that they're in Japan during a COVID-19 pandemic. When I have time off, I like to basically, like I said, I like to explore cultural places of importance like shrines or temples or museums. I also love traveling. I've been to 37 of Japan's 47 prefectures. So I love traveling all over Japan. Traveling is very efficient here. It's very, very easy to do with the bullet trains and everything. I really like to experience what local culture is like all over Japan. So I really suggest if you're in Japan, don't just go for all the tourist areas, but also experience local and authentic culture as well. I've made friends from all over actually, all the way from Hokkaido to all the way down to Kitakyushu, to Okinawa actually. So they're very nice. Their personality is a lot different from my American friends, I will say that. But it's very nice to have friends in a foreign land especially. Akiramenai, don't give up. I know learning Japanese gets hard at some point, but you just gotta ganbatte. You need to get through it. You will get through it. Just have a set goal in mind. If you want to work in Japan, keep with that goal. If you want to go back to America and use your Japanese somewhere else, just remember your goal. Always keep calm and ichigo ichie.